You're in the place where mysteries and the missing meet, where conspiracies lurk around every corner. Welcome to the Deep, Dark Truth.
Welcome back to the Deep, Dark Truth. I'm Mo.
I'm Chip.
And I think I'm Mikey.
It's unclear.
And welcome to a brand new year, and hopefully a much better year than the last was.
I make no such promises. I've been on Tumblr for the past 8 years where every fucking New Year's everyone's like, next year's gonna be my year. And then February comes and like, no, it's worse than last year.
That's what I said last year. I was like, I'm coming into my renaissance. Today we are going to be discussing cryptids in countries that we have charted in since our last edition. So if you want more cryptids, make sure you go back and listen to our first episode on international cryptids. This is International Cryptids Part 2.
Cryptid Boogaloo.
Yes.
Is it Cryptid Boogaloo? Is that what we're going for?
I said it.
But before we get started, we have a sponsor for today's video, and that sponsor is FedEx Office. A new year brings a new beginning. For all of my listeners that own a business, I want to tell all of you about FedEx Office. If you're just starting or you're running your company for generations, FedEx Office gives you the best way to print marketing materials, posters, signage, graphics, and much more. With FedEx, creating, editing, saving, and ordering are fast and easy. We're teaming up with FedEx and Podgo to bring our listeners 30% off your next order of $100 or more at podgo.co/FedEx. That's podgo.co/FedEx for 30% off your next order. FedEx, the world on time. So, Chip, I think you are starting us off today.
First, we have Turkey. Turkey has the Lake Van monster. Think Nessie, very classic dinosaur in a lake. It's one of the biggest lakes without an outlet in the world. I don't know. They were very impressed by that. It's 30 to 60 feet long, approximated. Sometimes has spines on its back. Just very classic. Just give Nessie a different hat. Big sightings of it were in 1995 and 1997, which has video that has very indistinct brown lumps in the water.
Appetizing.
But what's fun is that there's this old newspaper from back during the Ottoman Empire that there was a headline that was essentially, Lake Van Monster Eats Man.
Ooh.
No reaction whatsoever. Come on. Work with me here.
Very scary.
The worst. The newspaper says something, it's like 3 men went down to the lake shore to wash their hands. Why that was specified in the translation, I don't know. And one of them was attacked and taken by the monster, and the body was never found, which makes me think this is more the 2 lovers killed the third who found out about them, and supposedly the Ottoman government sent an actual, scientific exploration team to go check. Yeah. And they found nothing.
Nothing. No creature, no man.
Mikey, what do you have?
Let's go to Germany. Germany, what I found is it's kind of like a vampire-like creature, but is actually kind of more along the lines of an incubus. It's called the Alp. Yeah, it's kind of creepy because it's depicted as sitting on one's chest, kneeled, hunched over, and basically pins you down and creates nightmares and controls your dreams.
This sounds like an explanation before science for sleep paralysis.
This is exactly what they say, too. Yeah, in the 1800s. So there's this famous picture, too, in 1802, called Nachtmar, or Nightmare in English, by Johann Fuseli, depicted a wild, ghost horse in the window, but this elf-like creature sitting on somebody's body. So where they get, the vampire-esque from is that they drink blood from men's and females and children's nipples. And
what the actual fuck?
Yeah, and but their biggest predator is obviously females, who are pregnant or nursing because they prefer breast milk.
I wish this was video so that everyone could have seen Aubrey's face, who is still remaining stoically silent, but could not resist a look.
So the distinctual difference between like incubus or vampires is that it can shapeshift into multiple different animals and can fly and become invisible because it wears a hat. It is a magic hat that gives its powers. And if this hat is ever...
Is it just a normal person with a hat?
I don't know.
A regular old serial killer.
Where it gets its, like, powers from, supposedly. And no matter what, if it's a snake or if it's a pig, it's in this hat.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yes. That's, like, repeatedly, out of all the research that I found, it was always, it's in this hat. And if it loses this hat and you give it back to it, it will greatly, like, reward you. Gifts.
But also,
like,
if you
gifts.
keep the hat...
Also, a genie.
Yeah, it's like a djinn type. Yeah, it's weird. It's very, like, a bunch. So, how do you protect yourself from this creature in Germany?
Tell us, Mikey.
There's, like, 4 different ways. Putting a broomstick under a pillow.
Sounds awkward, but okay.
Hanging iron horseshoes from your bedposts.
Okay.
Iron, sure, okay.
Shoes against your bed, but pointing towards the door. Like, so you put your shoes that touching your bed, but pointing towards the door. Don't know. Placing a mirror on your chest.
No.
Does it have, like, a Medusa thing going on? Like, if you look at it or it looks at itself?
Enemies
I
of the
don't
air,
know.
beware.
Maybe if it sees its hat. Which
No,
is why
not
it's
the
always
magic
on its
hat.
head, so he
It's
doesn't have
so
to see
unfashionable.
it. So he doesn't have to look upon it. But it does say that if you see him, you're supposed to immediately ask him to return in the morning to borrow something or have coffee with you.
I love a good cup of coffee with a cryptid that is going to kill me.
He can either come back in his true form and steal something from you, or he can come back as a human with a unibrow. That is the only way that it is described, he comes back as a human male with a unibrow to bless you with gifts.
Because you invited him to coffee?
So very strange, very all over the place. I'm kind of here for it. And it's mildly terrifying with the sitting on the chest and you waking.
Your bloody nipples.
Yeah.
So the unibrow thing reminds me, so there was this, I can only explain it as a meme, but it was called This Man. And it was basically the idea that everyone had seen this man in their dreams. And there was a depiction of a drawing of him. And it turned out that it was very hoaxy. But that man, I will show you guys him.
Yeah, I remember this vaguely.
Has a unibrow, and that's what I keep.
Picturing.
Yeah.
And that's the picture you keep above your bed.
He looks like an elf.
Suspicious. Put this in the hot takes. Someone do a hot take TikTok.
It's just a very, very strange, like, concept. And, it dates back even further. So, like, because of its aspect to, like, control dreams and create nightmares, the Albtraum in German is Elfdream, which means nightmare. And Albdruck in German is elf pressure and refers to the elf sitting on your chest. Like, so it, like, dates back to, like, ancient Germanic language having to do with sleep paralysis and crushing and, like, nightmares in that aspect. So it's kind of like the boogeyman and a vampire and a shapeshifter all into one.
Yeah, it was like a lot of different folklore and myth that kind of seemed to all get absorbed.
They all specialized. They actually came out of it because it's old, so maybe...
My favorite part is the hat. I already feel like this might end up being my favorite cryptid, just because the magic hat, like a little lizard with the hat, a pig with the hat, etc.
It also, one of the animals it listed was a small butterfly, and that's where I chuckled in the research, because I'm trying to picture this tiny magical hat on this little white butterfly.
Or does the hat say the same size every time, and it just covers the butterfly?
Just a floating hat.
I imagine it's a bowler hat, but it's a personal preference.
I did also find, like, a tatzelworm, but I didn't want to talk about it because it's, like, cryptid for kind of like all Northern Europe kind of feel like.
Yeah,
like
it wasn't
area.
specific.
But I wanted to mention it just in case listeners wanted to like look it up themselves. But it's called Tatzelworm.
Here's your homework, listeners.
It's like a cryptid dragon in the Alp region.
Like worm, like with a Y?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I was picturing like the Mongolian death worm, and I didn't like it, so I'm glad that you cleared that up for me.
All right, Mo, what you got?
So, my first cryptid, Israel, which we are currently charting in right now on Apple Podcasts. So, just in the nick of time.
Shout out to Israel.
So, Israel was very hard to find cryptids for, but what we're going to be talking about is specifically giants, as in the giants that are mentioned in the Bible.
Like golems, or...
So we're specifically talking about giants in the Bible, as in Goliath from David and Goliath. So there was a discovery on the southern coast of Israel, according to National Geographic. This article is a teeny bit dated, but some archaeologists found some bones. They found this large cemetery outside the ancient city of Ashkelon, which is a major city in the Philistines between 12th and 7th century BC. It may solidify the idea that there were once giants.
We got confirmed hobbits, we got confirmed giants.
There was over 211 individuals, by the way, in this cemetery. So for a long time, archaeologists were trying to find these cities. They were trying to uncover bones and basically just study who these people were. There was this joke among archaeologists that they were buried at sea like Vikings because they couldn't find very many remains to study. But there's some different articles, one specifically from the Ulster Medical Journal, that they talk about how Goliath has this identifiable family tree that suggests that there was something called autosomal dominant inheritance. Basically, it is this pituitary disorder that is hereditary that can cause gigantism. And so the idea is that with these bodies, that they will be able to discover if some of these people carried this gene that led to giants of lore and giants in the Bible. So this might help us solve the mystery of a cryptid, meaning giants in the Bible. Now, does that necessarily mean that all giants in different tales of folklore throughout the entire world all would have had this condition? You know, maybe, maybe not. But in this very specific region, finding that this is something that, if it was common, would be very, very interesting. But I also happened upon an article by a website called JewishBoston.com. This author's name is Corianne Engber. But it raises this hypothetical question: are cryptids kosher? So in the Jewish faith, there's very specific things that you can eat. There's very specific ways to eat things, not having them touch dairy, etc., etc. So since these things are not outlined, these different creatures outlined in the Bible, if you prepare them in a way as if this is a kosher meat, I'm not going to have it touch dairy, etc., etc., could cryptids then become kosher? Could you, hypothetically, if you are Jewish, eat Bigfoot?
Absolutely.
And be guilt-free?
Yeah, as long as, you know, it depends on which cryptid. Do they have the hooves? Are you eating it with milk?
Once upon a time, me and Chip debated for an entire night about if you could turn a person into a potato. If Chip, as a vegetarian, who, by the way, Chip has been a vegetarian his entire life. Chip has never eaten meat, ever. Was raised vegetarian, has never eaten meat. Could Chip ethically eat that potato that used to be a person and still be considered vegetarian?
If I know that they were a person and then change it to a potato. Biologically, yes, I'm still a vegetarian. Morally, not a vegetarian. If I don't know...
We want to know your answers. Tweet us.
Give us the tweets.
I think it's a potato.
But it used to be a person.
Regardless of what it was before, it's a potato.
Very recently a person.
What if you can change it back into a person from a potato?
after I've eaten it.
Not after you've eaten it.
I guess I was just getting a different potato since they're readily accessible.
I'm on Mars, and there's one...
Biggest cop-out ever. You cannot just get another potato. What?
Yes, you can.
No! It is a question of whether Chip can eat that specific potato. I'm gonna eat the potato, probably. I love a potato. Any kind of potato.
Do I like the person that was turned into a potato?
That's the next question.
Do I like the person that was turned into a potato?
How much effort do I want to give to turn the potato back into a person?
It's probably some sort of punishment by a witch.
Anyways, I just got us way off track, but just things to think about. Shocked. We want your opinions on potato person debate and also whether or not you think cryptids could be kosher. Could you eat Nessie?
Call our tip line at...
Call or text us to 313-355-3411 and let us know what you think.
Subject, potato.
Or email us at thedeepdarktruthpodcast@gmail.com. Subject line, potato.
If not a single person emails us, just potato. If none of my friends call out to you know who you are, don't send us an email about potatoes. You failed me, and we're no longer friends.
You're not our real friends.
You can't sit with us. This is the potato table.
All right, now that I've raised the real question, Chip, I think it's your turn again.
But that's the high note. It's downhill from here.
It's always downhill. That's the show. Just get on with it.
So, we also charted in the Czech Republic. Yay!
Yay!
For them, we found the vodnik, which is essentially a water goblin.
Oh.
So in other, Slavic regions, it's called the Vodinyanoi. It's a different name, and it's more like a frogman.
Are you speaking in tongues?
The Voidyanoi. So in other Slavic regions, more like Russia, etc., there's the Vodinoi, which is basically just a frogman. But the Czech Republic, the Slovenia area, is the Vodnik, who is basically just a human man, except he's got green hair and skin, gills, and webbed hands, and he always, as related to Mikey, wears a hat.
Shut up.
What is going on?
I love it.
And that's one of the ways you can tell it's a Vodnik, besides, him being green. He's always wearing weird or old-fashioned hats and smoking a pipe.
So it's not the same hat every time?
No, it could be different hats. It's classically shown as it's like a straw hat flat on the top, and I think of the Music Man, that kind of hat. And so he dresses in ragged clothes and always has some sort of weird hat, and there could be good ones or bad ones. A lot of them when they murder someone, they put their soul in a teapot and display all their teapots as trophies.
Ooh.
And look at all the people I've murdered.
This is straight up off of a Charmed episode. I've seen this demon before.
Yes, I've mentioned it before.
No, I'm just kidding. Can you not see it? An old school Charmed episode where two of the sisters are in teacups.
And so the good ones, if the fishermen can offer them little tributes, and they might get good haul. If you give him a horse that you've slaughtered, or just tobacco. If you sprinkle some tobacco in the river, they're cool, I got you, bro. Have some fish, and that's the vodnik.
So it's a merman-esque guy that's green with a hat.
Who likes to dress fancy, or at least classic.
Might have teapots, might have tobacco.
I like both of those things. You could also sacrifice those things to me.
Approach Mo at your own peril.
Yes. I really want to know where the hell all these hats are coming
And now
from.
I want a picture of all of these cryptids and hats and a unicorn in the center with its horn coming out of a hat.
The horn is the hat. All unicorns are just horses, cosplaying as narwhals. We can already feel Non twitching with rage.
So this cryptid is from Canada.
So it's a nice cryptid.
Or it's Justin Bieber.
It is very Nessie adjacent.
Okay.
It's not Justin Bieber. It's Avril Lavigne's twin that's taken over her body.
Stop. Now I'm picturing Celebrity Deathmatch and Celine Dion was an alien.
I wonder that a lot of our listeners don't even remember the reference of Celebrity Deathmatch to understand what you just said. Yes, you're 100. Anyways, so this one is called Ogopogo. So the Ogopogo is a lake monster that is on, please don't hate me, a Canagan Lake in British Columbia. We're going to pretend that that is the correct answer. Do not come for me.
Stick to the potato emails.
So Ogopogo is a very Nessie-like creature that lives in this lake. A Canagan Lake is one of the largest of these 5 interconnected lakes that are in British Columbia. Mm-hmm. The Ogopogo, there were tales told of it by First Nations people. There is even a dance/song that is named in honor of the Ogopogo. I am going to play just a second of it. Actually, no, I'm not, because we're going to get banned. I will leave a link to the song, which is called the Ogopogo, the Funny Foxtrot, and I will leave that down below in the sources. If I can't find a YouTube video, I will just link to the Wikipedia article that has it. So it's this obviously legendary figure, but some of the lines from that song include, his mother was an earwig, his father was a whale, a little bit of head and hardly any tail, and Ogopogo was his name. I have a lot of questions of how, but we are just going to move on.
We have previously discussed the horrors of the ocean. You know it's possible.
So the idea is you just dance for this and you're okay?
I wish. So very specifically, the Shewepum and Silks First Nations people regarded the Ogopogo, which to them, before it was called an Ogopogo, they called it the Nataka, was a evil supernatural entity with great power and ill intent. So they basically called it a water demon instead of Nessie, the friendly neighborhood cryptid, something that's very benign and I would say beloved in a lot of ways. Especially water cryptids are very beloved. They're not seen as dangerous. They're seen as more majestic.
Well, sure, lake ones. Join a river, though.
Respect them and they won't kill you kind of thing.
Not only that, as I want to get a glimpse of these cryptids. Mm-hmm. Like, they're nice, they're friendly, it'd be so great. They did not view it this way at all. Instead, they thought that it was basically a demon. There is an entire oral tradition that goes along with the cryptid, and First Nations people would sacrifice different animals before going into the water, but a chief decided that he was done offering sacrifices, and when he went into the lake, the Ogopogo, quote, whipped up to the surface of the lake with its long tail, unquote. The canoe and his entire family were sucked to the bottom of the lake. Not how you thought it was going to end. Especially, it's a water cryptid like Nessie, and it's in Canada. I didn't go into it expecting for it to get dark, but it did. So I think that if you go into this lake, you should probably...
Nah.
Nope, I'm not going to recommend killing animals.
Even the most evil cryptid just wants to be your friend.
Yeah, I'm going to say maybe sacrifice coins. I don't know why it would need money, but maybe coins, maybe some bread, just some food that's not you. I suggest doing that.
I mean, it's a very good tactic to sacrifice food because then it's distracted over there with the food instead of eating you. And if it's not distracted eating that deer, then it's eating your canoe and your family. A little something on the side.
So the biggest thing I kept finding when I was looking at United Arab Emirates cryptids is that ghouls are originally from the Arabic culture and folklore, dating back to, before the 1700s in English literature. It was all documented. The male versions are called kutrubs and the females are called gulas, multi as gilan. Basically, finding that they're kind of jinn-like and that they were originally in Middle Eastern folklore sired by Iblis, which is a Arabic deity, so they're kind of viewed as shape-shifting evil demon type desert dwelling, like almost jinn-like, and they're said to be either cursed or what's the word I'm looking for?
Damned.
Yes, yeah, in some way, shape, or form, damned. Thank you. So that's kind of what I found in the Middle Eastern folklore. There's 3 types of origins, and they believe, obviously, that it was damned, it was human crossbreeding, or demonic curse, basically.
I blame Zeus. This is a Zeus equivalent.
It does feel that way.
But they do feed on human flesh.
Classic. Who doesn't?
Me, I don't.
There are ties from zombies kind of actually coming from an more ancient concept of ghouls.
Even I eat human flesh if it happens to have been turned into a potato.
I always find it really interesting when we find origins of things that I never would have expected.
Right.
If I would have been pressed to give an explanation for ghouls, it probably would have been something to do with tuberculosis or the Black Plague, of people appearing dead that weren't quite dead yet. Same thing with vampires. They weren't quite dead yet, but people thought they were dead, so therefore when they moved or breathed suddenly and were back to life, that they were something otherworldly, when really they just weren't dead to begin with.
I really like that sentence. They weren't dead to begin with.
Yeah.
Apparently they reproduce as well and have children.
Is their kids more ghouls, or is it like more... It just keeps getting less and less ghoul lineage until you're a normal human.
So there's oh my god, this is weird. I just stumbled across this. And on Cryptids fandom, it mentions that ghouls reproduce normally, but they sometimes necessarily breed with humans in order to prevent their bloodlines from becoming too inbred to be a point of weakness.
This sounds like royalty.
So, sounds kind of like rape. So,
Yeah.
not only do they eat flesh, they can rape you as well.
Classic.
Great. And then you have their ghoul child that they, I guess, steal in the middle of the night.
And the village burns you as a witch.
We can't even have, like, nice things. Like, cryptids can't even just be nice things. Great. Chip, do you have something less depressing?
I mean, less rapey. Still murdery.
Does it wear a hat?
No.
Oh.
You could make it into a hat.
What?
It's
What?
sticking with our theme of water cryptids. It's Ireland, skipping right past those leprechauns and everything mainstream. You've got the... I looked up how to pronounce it properly. Let's see if I can do it. It's the Dovarchu, which is just an outdated word for otter. But the cryptid is... It's like a cross between a dog and an otter. It's like the size of a wolf and 110 pounds, and it basically stick a dog head on a
So
otter.
my type of cryptid.
I want it. I want to pet it. Listen, I love otters.
Same.
I love them.
Same.
And I love dogs.
Love otters.
For the fans wondering, Mikey is an otter.
In case he hasn't been explicit.
There are some theories that it's actually connected to an extinct species of giant otter that lived in Ireland. It makes a lot of sense. But the thing all articles always talk about is there's 2 graves, one of which has been destroyed, and another that's still standing, that have depictions of this Dovarchu, telling the story of a woman who was killed by one. She goes down to the edge of a lake and is attacked by one. Her husband hears her shouting and goes down and finds that it's killed her and is eating her body. So he kills that one, but as it dies, it howls out and lets out a cry, and its mate emerges from the lake and chases after the husband for a while, but he eventually kills it. So, justice for the Dovarchu, who is just trying to eat, just hunting like normal, and suddenly getting murdered, and then its girlfriend gets murdered.
He just wanted to play.
He's just a good pupper.
This sounds very reminiscent of Kelpie, sort of.
Yeah, you know, in a vague sense.
Kind of the same thing, except for it's a horse, but it's a water horse that drags you to your death.
Yeah.
And it eats children. If you have a not great grandfather that doesn't like children, he might tell you that if you go near the water that the Kelpie will eat you.
Weirdly specific.
It makes sense for Ireland and Scotland and Great Britain in general to have water-related cryptids being islands.
Yeah.
Like, everywhere has lots of water cryptids because it's super important to our existence, but then when you are islands... everything is cryptid water.
Survival depends so much on water and how clean that water is. It makes sense that people thought that if they sacrificed to these water cryptids, that like their water might be safe and they would be able to use the water and trying to appease whether that's spirits or cryptids or gods or what have you. It makes sense that water was that important.
And almost every religion has some type of water deity, or some type of spirits, or
just mythos.
Yeah, mythos surrounding
you just gotta turn
water.
water to wine. It's fine. The water was poisonous. The reason you drink beer in high fantasy is because the water wasn't safe. Oh yeah, in real life too.
Yep, yeah, in real life too, that we live in. Just like in high fantasy. Citations. I don't need citations. I'm a f***ing nerd. Just say.
Your citations. Like you don't have the Lord of the Rings memorized.
do you?
I sure do, son.
There's a lot with Great Britain, so I kind of pick like little four categories. The first one is the Beast of Bodmin Moor, the Beast of Exmoor, the Beast of Dartmoor. They're all these giant cat creatures type thing. Wild wolf kind of cat. They're all kind of varying, but kind of similar in the sense that they're just these scary giant cats that will chase you down and eat you. And a lot of it in Great Britain can be turned back to like big cats that got out of zoos or crossbred or things of that nature. I know it sounds weird, but apparently over a long period of time in Great Britain, this has happened. I know that we've had ligers and things of that nature over here in America. I think that's probably happened in a lot of countries who have had zoos for a lengthy period of time where this might happen, but there are a lot in England of these large cats. The second one is the Bow Nessie in Windermere, so it's like Great Britain's version of Nessie. It's just pictured slightly larger, and it's like dark brown, and its name is Bow Nessie. Third one is Black Shuck, which is kind of like Sirius Black. It's a ghost-like black dog, omen-esque type thing that roams the coastline in the countryside, and very like grim like aspect. It has appeared in literature in 1577 and 1877 and throughout history. And then the last one that I found the most information is the Owl of Maunan. He's also called the Cornish Owl Man. Seen in 1976 in Maunan is how it got its name. Two girls named June and Vicky Melling, sisters, spotted this giant like owl man, and they were so hysterical upon returning that their father cut their vacation short, reported it, and one of the girls even drew a picture of it to give to the investigator. It was spotted in 78, 79, 89, 95, 2000, and on and on and on and on. According to the legend, you can hear owls screeching at night from the Mullion Church. I don't know if that's...
owls?
I'm not sure if I'm crazy or not, but I'm almost positive that is referenced in the first few chapters of the Mothman prophecies. Yeah, John Keel goes over all of these different, very, very similar creatures that were sighted before, Mothman became quote-unquote Mothman. It was like, okay, there was these similar creatures spotted in these various parts throughout the United States, but also in different countries. And one of them was owl adjacent, and I feel like it might have been this creature.
In the research that I found, it cross-references a lot that they both could be connected in some way, shape, or form, or merged, or like one is the originator of the other kind of thing. So that was super interesting. And also, it didn't really say anything about it, like, attacking or Alan in any way, shape, or form. It's just spotted and sighted. Kind of how, like, Bigfoot, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have this, like, I'm gonna hurt you or I'm gonna go after you type thing. It's just, hiding and comes out and appears and things like that. So.
Okay, but I'm pretty sure these two girls just saw a guy walking by a church that had owls in it.
Were there any sightings around anything specific? I'm just wondering because it has that, like, the grim...
omens.
Thing, yeah, like an omen, like Mothman, which is also very similar and interesting. And I'm wondering if there's anything specific that it's hooked to. Also, the Nain Rouge, which we covered in our local cryptids.
The only commonality is that every sighting has been around the church.
Owls.
It has been in or around the church.
Birds in Sam's Club. Owls in a church.
It's in like films and lots of different TV shows, and is also sometimes depicted as a also Eurasian like eagle owl. Chip had said earlier that was, thought to be kind of extinct. They're thinking maybe that this owl does still exist and is seen from time to time, rarely. It's just multiple sightings kind of thing in the same spot.
It's very interesting to me how cryptids, obviously some of them are inspired by other ones, but cryptids that are extremely old when there wasn't a real way to communicate, in the same way that there are pyramids in different parts of the world when those civilizations had no way of communicating at the time. I find those stories really interesting.
Well, the thing is with this owl man is that it's not ancient. Like, it would stem from Mothman, not the other way around. This started to become a thing in the 70s and was cited numerous times from mid-70s to now.
Which is very close to after Mothman. Yeah. It's kind of on the heels of Mothman.
On the heels of Mothman, a romance story by Mo.
I thought Mothman was much older.
It's like 66, I want to say. So the Silver Bridge collapsed in 1967, and those sightings ended with the collapse of the Silver Bridge. But we will get into all of that in a future Mothman episode that is not just Mothman, but themed around West Virginia.
Mountain Mama.
All right, Chip, what do you got?
What do I got? Japan! Our final one is a even newer cryptid than good old Mothman. Born of the 2000s-ish era is the Ningen, which just means human being in Japanese. But the Ningen, as we use to refer to the cryptid, is a ocean human. It's like a human whale. Got white skin, and it's in the Antarctic oceans, and it can range from like 10 feet up to like 60 feet. Sometimes it's the size of a person, sometimes it's the size of a whale, and it can like breach the water like a whale. Sometimes it's just a regular humanoid, 2 arms, 2 legs, head. Sometimes it's got mermaid-like tails, or sometimes it's shown as just like a blob with human legs.
So this is a Japanese cryptid, but it lives in the Arctic Ocean?
Yes. It sort of originates from the Japanese fishing vessels that are down there whaling research.
That makes a lot more sense. Thank you for that.
Yes. The story is that sailors see this weird thing off the bow of the ship that looks like a small whale or whatever, but then it comes up and it looks like a hairless human with creepy-ass eyes, and it's all white. And so the internet sort of gave birth to this cryptid. It started like 2002, and it's taken off from there. And so the theory is that the Japanese government is covering it up because they don't want to delegitimize their whaling research by being like, look at this weird human fish we found.
So my last was supposed to be Grand Cayman, which I was really excited about because we charted #1 in Grand Cayman for a solid week. But I could not find any cryptids that were very specifically for Grand Cayman and not just for various islands in the Caribbean. So then I tried to look at folklore, couldn't find anything, posted on Reddit, got a bunch of upvotes, but nobody had anything for me. So I am so sorry. If you are from Grand Cayman or have family from Grand Cayman, please send us a link to literally anything.
Even if it's just a story of your weird uncle.
And we will put it in our next Cryptids episode.
Supposedly, there wasn't any human settlements pre-colonization.
But you would think even after colonization that there would be some kind of folklore.
Yeah,
some
any
kind
sort of story.
Even a ghost story? Can I get a ghost story?
Can I get me a waterfish?
In the middle of the ocean, how was there not ocean cryptids, which somehow became the theme of this episode? With a new year, that brings, of course, a new survey. We're sorry, not sorry. So you can find that link in our link tree in the show notes. And please let us know what cases you want to see for the rest of the year. In 2021, we have a lot of fun things coming up. Hopefully, including us all going ghost hunting, going to Point Pleasant, West Virginia to see Mothman, covering Indrid Cold, and a few other cases that I'm really excited about, more true crime cases. But let us know what you want to listen to.
Those of you who have been around a while remember these promises from last year, but also you remember 2020, so don't blame us.
Yeah, we had the whole thing planned. We had the trip planned.
I had my ticket bought.
Yeah, and we had ghost equipment from our lovely Patreon member, Corey, who was borrowing us his ghost hunting outfit, which I hear is ridiculous. And we were ready to go. And it just, we couldn't make it work. It was right when quarantine was kind of ending, but things still weren't great. And Chip has to come across the whole country.
Quarantine ending. It wasn't in December.
I mean, the first, hard quarantine.
You had a hard quarantine, that's...
Yeah, you didn't experience that. So no. I see your confusion.
Oh, yeah.
What was your favorite cryptid?
Everything with a hat.
I was just going to say either of the hat ones.
Vodnik, and what was yours?
The Elp. The Elp is just too badass and creepy and too powerful to not, enjoy it. Plus, it wears a hat that can make it invisible.
Upsetting.
Yeah.
Except all the power's in his hat, so the real cryptid is the hat.
I love that it always said sexual attacks are rare. Not that they don't happen, but they're rare.
What a disclaimer.
I know, right?
So I think we all agree that it's the hat cryptids. It's either of them.
Yeah.
We'll do for this episode.
If cryptids have fashion sense, they're the best one.
Well, that's all for this episode. I'm Mo.
I'm Chip.
And I'm Mikey.
Sacrifice to your local lake monster. It would be boring if there wasn't a comment.
You just listened to the Deep Dark Truth Podcast. See you next time. And remember, your local cryptids want to meet you.